I would
How
say
about their competitive position? Like with regards to competitors, what are they trying to do?
they're trying to like differentiate themselves.
Excuse me, can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, I said like they're trying to differentiate themselves from their competitors.
Differentiation, that's good. That's a great point. Differentiation. What else? In the long term, what are they trying to do? Even though the industry metrics have changed, even though the KPIs, which we call key performance indicators, could change, like with the COVID situation now, a lot of companies suffered because it immediately became online. And those companies who did not have that kind of system in place suffered and were out of business in about 2, 3 months. And some of them thrived because of this new landscape that's happening. It had already emerged. We already knew that stores in Manhattan were closing one by one, even before the COVID. Maybe you remember brick and mortar stores were closing already. But now with the COVID, we were losing restaurants, we were losing stores, these grocery stores, the apparel stores. So we are losing them one by one. Some of them are kind of pivoting into the online version of the business, and some of them couldn't do it. They could not do it. So what does that tell us? What didn't these companies do? Why couldn't they do it? What was lacking?
Adaptivity. They weren't adaptive enough and not innovative enough.
Adaptability, and innovation. That's very good.
Flexibility.
Flexibility. Okay, that's also very good. Flexibility.
I also feel like a lot of companies who failed due to the pandemic, I mean, I feel like it was bound to happen because obviously nowadays we're moving into everything that's technology. So for companies such as like TJ Maxx or Macy's who don't have a strong online presence, they should have had a plan already in place prior to the pandemic for them to start branching out into e-commerce, because it's not going to be long before retail is not really going to be a thing.
Even when this is over, as you say, Mariah, I mean, this is here to stay, right? So this is very important. The bottom line for this course as well, guys, I mean, for the purposes of this course, what we are trying to study here is for the companies, what do they need to do? What kind of strategies should be in place so that they attain sustainable competitive advantage? So here, sustainable is important because sustainable means no matter what, the company is successful whatsoever and is not beaten by the competition easily. There are competitors, you can't really wipe them out from the industry. You can't do that. But what you can do, you can still be effective. You can still be successful against what they do. So all of what you said are really good points. On the other hand, for this course's purposes, we will study about the sustainable competitive advantage and how a firm actually attains that, and what's the best way to do that. We will look at strategies, we will look at forces. So we will be looking at it from different angles, but this is an important thing, be it a startup or a large company or a mid-sized company, a finance company, healthcare, it doesn't matter. The same rules apply. You need to be ahead of the game. You need to be able to create sustainable competitive advantage always. So that requires certain muscles to be worked on. Like, let's say you're in a fitness class, you need to work on these muscles constantly so that you don't lose the traction, right? Okay, so the case analysis, especially when we look at the strategic case analysis questions, we are mainly trying to answer these questions about why do some firms succeed and some others fail? Why are some companies are higher performance than others? What information is needed in the strategic planning process? So what do you need? What kind of information you might require for you to make some planning on the strategy. How do competing values and beliefs affect strategic decision making? Because the bottom line also, the decision making that you have in the company. So you are trying to make decisions on a day-to-day basis. And yes, those decisions, some of them are strategic, some of them are tactical, and they actually help you to be competitive. Because each time you're making a decision of doing something and not doing something, you are creating a result. You're creating an outcome either in the short or the long run. Okay. And again, another important one is that what skills and capabilities are needed to implement a strategy effectively? So, what kind of skills and capabilities do you need to implement a strategy effectively? So, that's also another thing. Your company, like Mariah mentioned, like TJ Maxx, she mentioned, for example, they might be lacking their online muscles. So because of that, they need that skill. Do they have the money to invest? Yes. Do they have the resources? Yes. So why not doing it? So they do it. Um, so some of the companies in the history, maybe you heard about them. You know, the Blockbuster was a DVD movie seller, right? That big chain was gone because of the emergence of Netflix. And then, you know, BlackBerry, now they're doing something different, but in the past, they used to be a big, on the first, handheld device it was. And it was very popular. But then it kind of, gave way to the competition. And then, some other ones like Toys R Us. So we definitely lost them. Sears, we lost it. Those were giants. Didn't they have resources? Didn't they have capabilities? They had. But because of the decisions that made, or decisions that they couldn't make, they ended up failure. They ended up with bankruptcy, unfortunately, and they kind of had to file. And that's a unfortunate thing, because as large and a giant company as you could be as Sears, you don't want that to happen to you. But again, it doesn't mean whether you're a large company or a startup or a mid-size, to stay ahead of the game is something like a muscle. You need to work on that muscle, and it has to be day to day, not only something you consider every other month. And even today, where technology is so important to catch up with, you need to be able to really on track and be agile, be vigilant about the forces around you. And we will be looking at these forces next class, so I'll save it for that. Okay, the requirements on the cases. What are some of the challenging situations that are faced by this organization? What are some of the events that led to that? So I don't really care if you really happen to make this a history case, but you can mention some examples. Uh, you can talk about, the products they have. You can talk about their financials. You can talk about their employees. But overall, you don't have to prepare a report full of statements. No, it's not that. But you can use those as resources in your papers. You are assessed by your ability to evaluate the situation of the business, and for you to be able to go beyond the textbook, and again, the companies and causes of the company's problems, but more into, some people spend a great deal of time talking on the causes of these problems. These are important in your analysis section, but again, not enough, not sufficient. You have to come up with a good recommendation plan, uh, incorporating all the components of the five forces, let's say, so that it becomes a case analysis with its, in its full form. So that's why analyzing and recommendation are two different things. And of course, you can always reach out when we do the discussions of the cases, or even prior to those discussions, and I can help you with that. I mean, if you have some problems with analyzing and then coming to the recommendations part, because this is where most students go a little bit short on, making those recommendations, how they should build on the recommendations and everything. So, and it's the creative part, it's the most important part. What are some of the strategic capabilities? And let me ask you this question, guys. What do we mean the ability to differentiate? And we will talk about that specifically in our next week's discussions. But what do we mean by differentiation? Ability to differentiate. What does it mean?
Providing a service or product that nobody else can.
Okay, so it's kind of unique in its own regard, and people may not easily imitate that. Yes. Who else? People who haven't spoken yet, please jump in. For example, why is iPhone used and preferred so much? What is the differentiation aspect of iPhone? Anybody wants to tell me who's an iPhone user?
Sure. They're all identical basically, like the way they operate, and they're very simple to use. There's no differentiation like there is with Androids.
Not, you mean like not very complex?
They're not complex.
User friendly.
They're
user friendly.
The fact that they're not customizable, like as Androids, let's say, the fact that they're not like that is actually appealing to a lot of people. Like the fact that they're uniform.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So there is a uniformity aspect. There is user friendliness. Mariah?
I was going to say, like, for example, I have all Apple products. I have the phone, laptop, iPad, watch. And I feel like because I have an Apple iPhone, I couldn't get like a Samsung tablet, if you get what I'm saying, because Apple allows you to connect all your devices. So I have all my files on each device without having to download it. It just is all linked under the cloud. So it's just easier.
Definitely. Okay, let me see who else we have. Jocelyn?
Yeah, so I think what differentiates Apple is like their customer service. I know I had issues before, and like they partner with, like, for example, Best Buy, or they have their own stores that are like pretty much in any convenient location, and they're like really well organized when it comes to like booking appointments and things like that.
So what Mariah mentioned, we call it switching costs, guys. I don't know if you heard about this term before, but we will be talking about that when we look at the 5 forces. A lot of times consumers cannot shift easily from one product to another because there are a lot of switching costs. And those switching costs are not only related to the money, they are the costs related to your effort in using them, spending the effort, spending the time. That's why many of us are reluctant to change the Apple computers or laptops, because if you happen to change that, the whole system will change because you're in the iOS system. And to be able to shift into Windows, you will have to relearn something. You will need to unlearn, and you will need to relearn, and it's a hassle for a lot of people. People don't want to do that. That's why companies like Apple know how to really get you hooked on their brand, because they know it's going to cost you, not only with money, but also, most importantly, the effort and time that you spend getting used to their products. But those are part of the differentiation strategies that they have. So that's the strategy that they use, actually. Okay, well, I had Jorana. Is that you? You wanted to say something?
Jarna. I was
I'm
thinking
sorry.
it's okay. I was thinking along the lines of what Mariah was saying, and that sort of like the versatility and the accessibility. They kind of infiltrated in a way, and that it's your credit card, the accessibility of the Genius Bar, of Apple support at all times of the day. All the devices are connected. So I feel like that's unique from kind of what Jason was saying about Androids, of that between the computers, the phones, like you don't have that connectability. I mean, maybe because I don't know Androids as well, but from what I'm aware of, that there's not that connected ability.
Exactly. So in any case, the differentiation by some companies is super. Like it's like to the extent of being really unique and gets you really loyal to the brand because you bring a lot of investment into it. So you have invested in this brand, as I said, not only economically or financially, but also in terms of your effort, your time, your attention, the way you get used to it. You become their learner, and you have been a learner, their student almost. And it's once you start to shifting from that to another brand like Android or other ones, then you will need to unlearn all the things that you learn, and not many people could do that for a little amount difference in terms of price. So ability to differentiate is an important skill by companies, and they are important elements of strategic management. When you try to compete in the environment that you operate, you need to think about the ways in which you can differentiate in opposition to your competitors, against your competitors. How better I could serve them, serve my customers, how unique is my offering, and how difficult is it to imitate. So these things will be discussed more further along. But these are some of the capabilities. And then capabilities also include the ability to speculate. Speculate, so which means, are you able to see different scenarios for this company? Are you able to create some kind of a future planning so that what is happening today might lead to something else tomorrow? Uh, for example, let me ask you, what do you think McDonald's, what do you think might be uh, happening to McDonald's in the future? Anybody has any ideas? Can you speculate what might happen to this company overall? There is no right or wrong answer. There is no right or, sorry, Andrew, sorry. There is no right or wrong answer, guys. So Andrew, I'll let you speak. But just so you know, I'm just asking your opinion here. So it's speculation. Yes, Andrew. Mhm. Okay. And Carlo, and why do you think, guys, Andrew says that? Anybody has any idea? And Carlo, please.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think like they'll try to like monitor consumer habits, like if people are shifting to more healthy options and maybe try to incorporate that more within their menu.
Right, right. And why? Okay, let me see here who is raising hands. Diana?
I think the reason why they would probably try to become more automated is because the overall prices are going to be rising, and if they want to keep their menu prices relatively low, they will have to like reduce their like input costs too. So I think like just installing the kiosks are going to be more convenient.
Anybody else? Okay, Jason?
I think it comes down to, I guess, at that point, fixed cost and variable cost. If it's a one-time fee to reduce variable costs for the foreseeable future, then companies would go ahead and do that. So, like with people, obviously, with salaries.
So you all are trying to talk about different scenarios here. And those scenarios could be looked at from a financial perspective, from a technology perspective, from a production perspective. So or in combination of these perspectives. But again, ability to speculate leads us to prepare for the future. What do we need to do today so that we eliminate some of the unwanted consequences, some dire consequences of losing market share, being out of business altogether, or being obsolete in the eye of the customers. So every company actually faces that, even more today because of all that's happening around us. So that's why speculation has become more and more important every day that we live. So again, with your case analysis, you're open to have some speculations and make recommendations based on those speculations. The same holds true, let's say, for airlines today. Like, what do you think airlines might be? let's say COVID has extended. Let's say we have another mutant virus coming in. Let's say airlines will have to be stagnant for another 2 years. What do you think might happen? What is your speculation? Anybody on this? That's interesting because I
Uh,
always think about that. Yes, Jahid, please.
I think they'll be a little more prepared this time because,
Uh-huh.
like when this first happened, a lot of the like big manufacturers like Boeing and Airbus, they really didn't know how to handle this, how to handle COVID. And if it were to happen again, then I feel like they'd be more prepared because this past year they've been really trying to change their operations to kind of recover. So I think they'll just continue that trend.
On a more important note, though, guys, I'm asking you, what could they be doing differently? So think about that. What could they be offering differently so that they don't lose market share or they don't get too much negatively impacted in a virus situation or another situation that kind of limits people's travel all around the world? What could they be doing differently? Yes, Diana.
I actually think what they might be doing is like, you know, how they have these classes like business class, first class, and lower class flights.
Yeah,
So what they could
yeah.
try to do different is to renovate their business class into like separate cabins where you don't have to wear mask inside of that cabin because you're isolated. Middle class, you would have like maybe shared kinda thing. I don't know, they can figure something out. And I believe what they could try doing is like enforcing masks for the economy classes. So I think that's one of the things that's like not so costly as like making separate cabins for each and every like passenger. So I think that's something they should try going for to still keep like airplane flights more open to like the community and to still have business going.
Mhm. That's great. So what Diana mentions is mainly about how you change your offerings, how you change your product, how you change your offerings. And those are part of recommendations based on speculations. So that's why speculation is an important skill in strategic management case analysis. So make sure you build your speculations on some, educated guesses, and some of them you might need to look for some research. You can see what other airlines might be doing even today. That's why researching is, wonderful when you do a case analysis because it gives you some kind of additional food for thought, and you try to be creative but based on certain knowledge base. That will be wonderful. Thank you, Diana, and thank you everyone else. Okay, ability to integrate. So what we need to integrate? Well, we are trying to have a holistic perspective. So you need to, at the end of the day, you need to create a set of recommendations for the whole company. So what you need to do, you need to maybe think about different departments, HR, marketing, production, supply chain, logistics. So you need to think about all those and how they intersect and how they kind of relate to one another. Then you do your integration skill. So whenever you try to come up with something new, think about how it will impact the other department. Think about how it will create some cost structure for, let's say, finance department, or like, let's say you want to innovate something with your marketing strategy, but then how does it go with the others? You don't want to kill the other parts of the business just for the sake of being innovative, right? So you want to think in relation, all of those in relation to other components, and that's why we call it an integration skill. So you need to think about integration, and the best thing you could do is to come up with some recommendations that benefits all of the parts of the system, not just one part of the system. When you say, hey, I would do this new product line, make sure it also benefits your HR, benefits your marketing, benefits your production. So, I mean, it has to be profitable, it has to be beneficial for all of your value chain activities. We'll talk about value chains later on, but it's mainly the set of activities that companies do to, create a product from a raw material to the end result of it. And it's similar thing with the services. The way you create the idea and then you put different steps in the chain, so you come up with the customer service in the end. But there are different steps, there are different kind of chains of events that go before that kind of end result, which is a product or a service or both. And you need to be able to think in terms of integrating all of those and benefiting all of them. So before I go to the case analysis preparation, I want to ask you also something. What do you think about the value and cost relationship in companies? Like, we have two things here. We have value and we have cost, right? Let me try to, I will try to use this if I may. Let me see how I can do it. Just a second. How does it figure? So how do I go to whiteboard? I'll try to figure this out in time, but guys, let's see what you think in terms of this relationship between value and cost. What do you think about the two? What is the relationship between a company's value proposition and then the cost it requires so to be able to acquire that kind of value? Where should the company be in terms of the both, like the relationship between value and cost? What do you think? Anybody heard about this before?
I think they have to weigh the benefit of what, say, this new integration is going to cost them.
Yes, that makes sense.
I would say your
Anybody else? Yes, Kevin?
I would say you want your value to be maximized while your costs be minimized. So you want to get the most for your buck.
Yeah. Although it's not minimized, you want the value to exceed the cost. You want it definitely to exceed your cost, mainly because you want to create a perception, a kind of presence in the eye of the customer, so that when the customer pays something, he or she knows that the value is already exceeding the cost that it requires. So value should always exceed the cost if you want to be also competitive and sustainably competitive in the short and the long run. And where do we go from here? When you do your strategic management analysis, you also need to think about what kind of value does this company provide for the customer? Where does it fall short? And where does it really exceed expectations? So this is something that I wanted you to keep in mind, this relationship between value and cost, where value needs always to exceed the cost components of the product or the service. Okay?
Professor?
Yes.
How would you define value in this scenario?
Okay, that's a great question. The value in this scenario is anything beyond physical and physical. So we also gave examples of, for example, let's get an example for a company that you may want to choose it, or I can choose it for you. Maybe, how do you think about like Lyft, for example, as a company? Like Lyft offers a transportation service for individuals. So that's one of the values that it provides, correct? What are some of the other values do you think with Lyft you get? What else do you get with Lyft in terms of value? Gabe?
One of the nice things about Lyft is the convenience. You can order a car at any time, no matter where you are, and you know that you'll be able to get a ride quickly.
Get a ride quickly. You don't. So what kind of other things that it saves you from? What kind of hassles you kind of eliminate by using that kind of, Lyft driving or Uber? What are the things you get rid of? Let me see. Jocelyn and Jarna?
Yeah, so I'm not answering that a specific question directly, but I was just gonna say like it kind of like reduces costs when they have like the rideshare option. and it's still obviously convenient because they're still like getting around, but it's definitely lowering your costs for something that you could have just been in on your own in the car.
Right. So it has many other features that would help you really. And then Jana?
They offer like a general assumed safety that maybe
Mhm.
cabs don't, of being able to send your location to your friends, and so forth.
By the way, somebody asked this question to me. Is switching costs one of the five forces? Well, no. Switching costs is not one of the five forces. It's one of your competitive advantages. If you have a switching cost, then you're like kind of creating a differentiation in the eye of the customer. So shifting from one to another, like for example, with the substitutes, or if there are new entrants in this industry, if there are high switching costs, for example, so it could be like one of the processes in the five forces, not mainly the name of one of those, but it's like a kind of player, a determinant that kind of leads us to say, hey, there are high barriers of entry, or it's very hard to compete because there are high switching costs, because people don't easily switch between products. That's why it's not easy, let's say, to enter into maybe smartphone industry or technology communications industry sometimes. Okay. What other questions? Yes, I upload these recordings if you want me to, but still, if there are those of you who don't want this to be recorded, I won't be recording these calls. So, but there are students of mine that wrote to me. There are some circumstances extra that came lately, any emergency, so they wanted me to upload those. So if anybody has any issues with that, please let me know, because I have to abide by the CUNY policies of recording, and they say I need your permission to record these and to share these recordings actually with you guys. So let me know if you have any issues with that. Okay, let's go back to a little bit again on the and finalize whatever we want to say. I'm actually uploaded these information for you on Blackboard, so you can go back to this anytime. I'm not going to actually go into bits and pieces of every single slide on this deck, but I'm just mentioning something important is you need to keep in mind when you do the case analysis. First, you need to investigate the situation very well. You need to analyze and research, as I said, is an important portion of it. You can ask others who are industry experts, definitely. You can, try to play with being a strategic decision maker. If you were the owner of this company, let's say, if you were the top management individual, what would you do? If you were the board of directors member, or if you were an outside consultant, what would you do? Usually, our positioning here as students would be like an outside consultant, of course, but you can always think yourself in the shoes of the people from inside, like the founder, the top managers, people who are like important positions in that company. And you can always think like an insider and an outsider, and that will help you because you will be able to empathize with the company's challenges as well as opportunities. Okay. Um, so first of all, don't read the case just one time. When you do the case analysis, try to read it more than one time. Try to take notes in the second time round. And again, try to, and I actually made, some topics to be analyzed, especially for a specific case. So for Pixar, if you choose Pixar, you're definitely doing the external environment analysis. So you are sticking with what's required. And when you read the material, you also read it in light of those concepts that we study, okay, that we really discuss. So, and then make your notes accordingly. And then you can try to formulate an initial recommendation. And then maybe try to go over the case again and maybe change recommendations if necessary. So you need to be able to kind of be on top of what the case tells you, what are the challenges of this company, And again, you're free to use any other resources outside of this class, as those companies are already out there. I mean, there are so many information. And then step two, you look at the problem. And some cases have more than one problem to solve. Some of them have money issues. Some of them have marketing related problems. Some of them have customer service related setbacks. Some of them might be having like really a problem with on innovation. So whatever that or those problems are, you try to articulate them and try to define them in a way that we can see it clearly, okay? Don't just say, this company has a marketing strategy problem. Don't just say that. Say it and then tell us why you think that there's a marketing strategy problem. Are they not considering product innovation enough? Are they not doing promotion enough? Are they not using digital platforms? So whatever you mean when you say, I don't think it's sufficient on the marketing front, you need to provide some evidence to that. Most of the time, we just suffice it to say, I mean, this is the problem, this is how I see it. But when I read it or somebody else reads it, let's say somebody from the company reads it, it needs to make some, solid points for them. It needs to make sense for them as well. So don't assume people understand the same things as you when you write about them in general. So make sure you let them understand what you mean by providing examples and evidence from the case or from some cited sources. Okay, and sometimes until after you write about the case, it may not be evident to you what kind of a problem this company has. I don't know. I didn't really see quite evident in the case. When you start researching about the company, when you start writing about the company, it might appear little by little. You might start to understand what might be a problem emerging that you might see, so that you build your recommendation on that problem. Okay, don't try to focus on too many at the same time. Try to stick to the case component, the framework which I give you. Don't try to go into too many things at once, because it will confuse you even more. Okay. So again, in cases, you will be asked to do 5 forces, you will be asked to do value chain, you will be asked to do maybe using some balance sheet. But again, you don't have to do that. I mean, if you don't want to, I'm not going to ask you, as it says here, I won't be asking you definitely to do some kind of a financial analysis of the case, but you can use it if you feel relevant. If you feel it's relevant, you can even do some balanced scorecard, which we will study later on. It will be great if you can do it. I will tell you how to do it. I will teach you how to do that, but you may or may not use it in the case because I mean, I don't really force my students to do like those kinds of tabulations or financial analysis, because they may not want to do that. And again, it's not always critical. The important thing is how you define the problem, how you think there is a turnaround for that problem solution. So how do you think the company may turn things around by certain strategic moves? Okay, any questions so far? Perfect. Okay. When you provide alternative solutions for the case, make sure it makes sense from an affordability perspective, from a competitor perspective. Let's say you recommend something, but if it's something that's very imitable by other people, like competitors, then it doesn't make sense in the long run, especially. Will people accept this change? Like, are you recommending something which is very, let's say, groundbreaking, something really, really intense and really like too new for people, so that there will be some acceptance problems. How will it affect other people in the company, as I said? Does it fit with the mission, vision, and objectives of the company? Will the culture or values of the company change because of what you offer? And again, it may or may not have to change. I'm not saying don't offer something that pushes company into culture change. No, you can. But I'm just saying, consider these things, because whenever you recommend something for the company to change, you're also affecting the other parts of the system. It's always a holistic approach that we look at when we look at companies. And whenever you do some kind of recommendations, it always has some kind of repercussions and some kind of end results for other people involved or other departments. When you make recommendations, make them supported by your analysis, describe exactly what needs to be done, and explain why this type piece of recommendation will solve the problem. And if you can, this is the best part actually, how you can implement this solution really. What is the best way to implement? And the solution that you propose must solve the problem that you identified. So don't just say, hey, this has to be done, this has to be done, this has to be done. Does it help solve the problem? Or are you just making a educated guess and just leave it there? It has to be relevant, it has to be doable, and it has to give us some steps to take for real solution of the problem that the company faces. Okay? And again, don't be concerned too much, because I will be giving you a lot of information, a lot of generation of knowledge before you do the cases. So don't worry if you feel, oh, am I equipped to do this? You'll be equipped to do this quite enough, okay? And you will be able to do recommendations when we get to this part. So don't worry if this sounds too abstract for now. Don't worry. And for those of you who don't want to do the first case, it's completely okay. You can do the other cases. In my earlier courses, I used to ask students to do all analysis together, like especially when you move on to the finalizing this course. With the last case example, for example, I used to ask them to do everything in that case. I stopped doing that because I felt it was too much for my students. But I used to ask you everything, especially on the cases that you are towards the end of this course, this term, I mean. But now I won't be doing that. You will be limited with what the case requires you to. Okay, so there are lots of things you can consider, like getting the most from case analysis, and then decision making, like thinking about integration, integrative thinking, some questions you can ask. So these you can read in your spare time. And again, I will be also having you work on a case with a team in the class. So we will be doing those exercises as well. But don't worry if your views or if your thinking might diverge with others. And if you have somebody who is completely opposed to what you're saying, we need those people. We need devil's advocates. And they are useful for us to see the case from a different angle. And that's very valuable. Okay. Any comments, any questions? Take a look at the chat. The cases are individual as assignments, but during the class, in some sessions, I will be asking you to do some casework amongst your people, amongst the peers. So it doesn't have to be the same cases. Maybe I will select Robin Hood, okay, or I will select, let's say, GameStop, and then you will be doing that with your peers. And it's going to be maybe a heated discussion amongst you. You will say, I said something, he said something else, or she offers something, I don't agree with that. That's good. I mean, it's good to have conflicts over what to do. And that's how the innovations and conflict resolution and new ideas come forth. I don't assign you any cases. You pick, guys. You pick. And the cases for class discussions are going to be we will just decide on them together, maybe on that certain moment. So it won't be pre-planned always. Okay, We will say, hey, let's do this case today and let's come together, let's do a breakout, and we will choose a famous, problem with a company right now, as we know, Robinhood, GameStop. We will choose that and we will move ahead with that, right? Uh, in the last years, I was also talking about, for example, WeWork. WeWork had change in the management. Adam Newman was ousted by the shareholders. If you have followed the news, and we talked about this case quite a lot in the strategic management class. What will happen with the change of leadership, and what will happen to WeWork? I could even take it here today. I mean, even with the course of the pandemic, what might happen to WeWork? What could WeWork do to still be valuable for the customer, still be, profitable in the short and the long run? Yes, you have 5 choices for the individual cases, and you do 2 of them. That's correct. You only do 2 of them. Any other questions? No problem. You're welcome. The cases, they are in your syllabus right now, but I'm going to create sections in the assignment, and I'm going to show you those very quickly now. You can choose. Let me show you actually. I'll show you where they are in the syllabus. You see that we have this list. So Pixar, external environment analysis, Lime, internal environment. Okay. Fresh Direct, as you know, that's going to be the strategical analysis. Tata Starbucks international strategy. We used to do Heineken before. Now I changed it. Johnson & Johnson, I kept the same. Johnson & Johnson is a big, diversified company, as you know, and they have good corporate level strategies. So you're going to be, if you choose Johnson & Johnson, it's going to be about the corporate level strategies, the design and the structure that we already will have covered when you start doing that case. So I used to have General Motors. I used to have Emirates Airlines. I used to have McDonald's. I used to have Heineken and Johnson & Johnson before. And now I changed them to these new lists because I felt these companies could be more exciting and fun to do, maybe because they are fairly new and they have, although I mean they are successful, they might have some challenges in the short and the long run, and it might be interesting for you to do research about. The due dates of the cases is on the syllabus. So for the first one, for example, your due date, if you choose Pixar, your due date will be, let me see. Yes, so on the 18th of February. So if you choose Pixar, it's in about 2 weeks. And you may or may not choose this. It depends on you. We will discuss it no matter what. We will discuss it in class. We will talk about the external environment of Pixar, and we will make sure we cover the components that you feel useful. The important thing with the case submissions is that, guys, I can't make extensions on the due dates. The reason is, once I discuss this case with class, it's not open to further submission because I already, we already talk about some of the answers to the questions that you will need to answer in the case. So to be fair for all, we will have to limit that to before class, latest before that related class. So it's going to be probably around 225 on the 18th. That will be the submission due date. And we won't have exceptions to that. On the other hand, I always have exceptions for exams, for quizzes, for analytical reports, for example. I do some extensions if you feel you need more time. I always am flexible with those. The only thing I'm not flexible with is the case submissions. If you choose to do the case, you need to do it by that time before class time. And you will see those in your assignment section already, and you will be uploading that case analysis on your blackboard, and then I will be grading them. So that's how it goes. Okay. Any questions about this? Any questions about the case or anything else?
For submission, we have to find it in Blackboard under the assignments tab.
Yeah. You will find down the assignment. Right now you don't see it yet, but I'm going to put it up and you will see it. But in case you want to oversee all the due dates, just refer to syllabus and you will see all of those. Usually those don't change. The case submissions, pretty much I'll keep them the same unless there are special circumstances. So those will be the same. But again, I'll remind you, if we have any extensions of due dates on the other types of assignments, I'll definitely let you know, and we will change the deadlines. So that's pretty much okay. Okay, so what else? Let me see. What else do I need to tell you about the case? So the rest mainly is about what we will cover for the rest of this class in terms of external, internal environment, international strategies, business strategies, corporate level strategies. And I will be giving you more hints and more, let's say, information as we approach case analysis submissions. And you can always approach me if you want to know more, if you want to clear up a confusion that you have about any type of case analysis. Other than that, you will get used to it, and you can even do an additional case if you want an extra credit. I usually allow that to be done in the very end of this term. You can say, hey, professor, I want extra credit 5. I want to do this additional case, whatever that may be. It could even be something apart from our list of 5. It could be something from the book, something else you may want to choose, and you can get an extra credit with that. And you can always get extra credit with your participation, ongoing, consistent participation. I am going to, no pressure, but I want to call you in, especially those of you who don't have a chance to speak. I want you to speak at least once in a week, every one of you, so that you have a chance to be active in learning, active learners. And that's why participation is so important, including your breakouts, including the general class discussions. Yes, so do we read about these cases on the textbook and then answer the questions? Yes. So mainly the questions will revolve around the ones that I already put up in the syllabus, Jahid. So you don't need any extra information for now. Everything is on syllabus right now. Like the due dates, the questions you will face, you will need to answer. They are all in syllabus at this moment. And additional information will be given to you when I put the assignment on, but they will be mostly what I told you already in the syllabus. Okay. Okay, extra product credit up to 15 points means if you have been an outstanding participating student. Outstanding meaning each time we needed to address a question and nobody else is answering it, you jump in. Or let's say you always bring value with your original contributions. And you're not only frequent with your participation, but also bringing a lot of, thought-provoking issues into this class, right? You're actually stimulating our thinking. And in addition, as I said, with the case materials, if you do an additional case, that's 5. Outstanding participation, that could go up to 10, 15 points. I usually have my students upgrade their overall grades one band higher, usually let's say from B+ to A- or A- to A, because they've been outstanding in participation. And not just extra credit, but outstanding participation. So that's what I do usually with participating students. So you might be surprised, you might be expecting a B+, but then you get an A or A- because I've given you that upgrade. because of your contributions. That's why I really value that kind of thing in the class. Given our challenges with the online environment, this is even more important today. So that's why, if your circumstances allow, have your cameras on. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I'm just making this clear. You don't have to do the cameras, but it enhances learning. Whenever you have face to face, at least in this online platform, it enhances this interaction, and you kind of get more, let's say, in-depth learning, in-depth thinking. So everything becomes more interactive, more deeper, growth based. So things like that. So make sure, I know it's more comfortable having the videos off, or maybe some of the things, prevent you from having the cameras. But as much as you can, if you can, and I won't be grading you on all that, on all the camera thing, but it enhances learning really. Okay. Anything else? With the Globus, do you want me to talk about Globus, what you need to do, or are you pretty much on top of what you need to do with the Globus requirements? I've already sent you. Carlo, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question. I saw you put the registration codes for the Globus. How do we know which code is for which group?
So so team number 1 is A. And I've already put the teams in the syllabus.
Okay.
So you should see your team number, and let's say team number 1 starts with A, team number 2 is B, and it goes like that.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
I think you will figure that out. You are all smart people, so I'm sure you'll figure that out. But let me know if you have any issues with that. And you will need to find a name. So let's say you are letter A or letter G, whatever. You need to find a unique name for your company. I want you to do that. Don't say I'm company A. No, just find a name and use it all throughout, and put it in your Globus information profile, whatever that is, and play with Globus as much as you can. Get acquainted with the software. It should be pretty much user-friendly. It should be straightforward. In the beginning, it might feel a little bit overwhelming with all the things you need to be keeping track, with the business intelligence reports, competitive intelligence reports. But over time, you will get used to it and you will play really easily. And yes, you will be ranked based on, like, you will see some rankings, especially stock price, ROEs, and revenues. You will see some rankings there. And sometimes, as I said, you will have an outstanding achievement amongst all players around the world. And they notify me when that happens. And I always let my students know immediately when that happens. And we congratulate them, and we applaud, and we say, great job.
You're going to get that A.
What's that? So the quiz is on Globus. There is going to be a quiz 1 you need to take. And if you fail in the first one, it doesn't matter. Let me know. I'll reset it for you. But before you take it, guys, I extended the deadline. It should be doable. I think it should be sometime, I don't know when it's going to be due. It should be on your system. So go into Globus and figure out. You will have additional time. So make sure before you take the quiz on Globus, make sure you just go over the manual, please. Don't try to take it because you will just answer by heart. It doesn't really make any sense if you don't go over the manual. So please go over the manual and then answer the questions. Yeah, you 50% you should be passing. Okay, Diana, your team only has 3 people in total. How so? How is that so?
I'm not sure, but I looked at the spreadsheet, and the 2 people that are in this chat, including myself, so that's 3 total. And I haven't seen the other one in a while, so I'm not sure if that person dropped or if she's still in the class altogether. So I'm not sure if that's If that is that okay if we only have 3 people or something?
So let me check with you then. Just give me a second. What team is that? Which number?
2.
So that's Natalia, Diana, Tomoyoki, and Jennifer.
Yeah.
And you are missing who?
Natalia, I couldn't find her anywhere.
Natalia. By the way, is there anybody here who just added this course? Okay, there are people who dropped. I understand. Are there people who added? Okay, so we'll see what happens. I mean, if we have, let's say, we already have people with like teams with 4 people, correct? So 4 people, and then
Not
we have
all
people.
I'm sorry, not all of
Yes.
the teams have 4 people. I have 3. It's just me, Anthony, and Kevin. I think we're missing Isaiah. I haven't heard from him. I'm not sure where he is.
Okay, guys, then let me so Isaiah, you just registered. Okay, I have you, I should have you, or maybe I don't have you. Okay, guys, I'll try to, it's okay. I'll try, what I'll do is, okay, what I'll do is I'll look at my users list on the Blackboard and also on my faculty system and come up with a real list and then figure out the teams as soon as possible. Okay, just bear with me for another week. And then next week we'll figure this out. What's the last day for ad drop?
Today.
Today.
Okay. So I'll check it out and probably get back to you over the weekend with the final list. And yes, if you are a team of 3, we will definitely do it, but we don't need to if we have newcomers. So we will add somebody new to your team definitely. Is that okay? In the meantime, guys, those who already have the teams, work on your globus, work on your system, and the newcomer, you will fill them in. Is that okay? You will be helping them, you will be taking them through if, for a few things, if you have a new people coming in. Okay? Perfect. Okay, let me see. So guys, thank you so much. This has been a great discussion. And next week, I'm going to start with chapter 1. So you may better start reading chapter 1, the strategic management concepts and components of strategic management, why it is important. We will have an overview of what it is really. And of course, why creating competitive advantages in the long and the short run are very important, okay? And on Thursday, we will move on to the external environment. So make sure you're kind of on top of what you need to do. So go to the syllabus and make sure you get acquainted with the chapter, the first chapter and the globus. And of course, the second chapter as well, okay? The external environment. Any questions before we go? Okay, perfect. So thank you. And I will be seeing you next time, okay? Yes. Okay, okay, no problem. By the way, before you leave, guys, can you say value chain, the word value chain on the chat, please, so I can check the attendance? Say value chain. Perfect. And you can go. Thank you.
Goodbye, Professor.
Bye-bye. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Hmm. Oh, I'm not really sure about that, Andrew. That's a good question, but that's a very technical question. Is that a requirement for this class? What's the class? Is it math? Oh, can you check that with the registrar maybe? Oh my. So who could you, can you reach out to the department? Oh, hmm. Andrew, I would say please reach out to whoever on the registration. I think registrar might be helping you. You can just say urgent, just urgent request, and you may even want to call them or like email them and ask them urgently what needs to be done, just to make sure, just to be on the safe side. I can't say anything. I really haven't come across anything like this. I'm not really on top of the requirements, really. Not too much. So I would definitely say reach out to the department head and also the registrar, maybe write a couple of emails and maybe try to call if they answer on the phone and try to get it because you're going to be graduating, right, this term? That's great. I see. Okay. And it's a lot of work. Hmm. Okay. Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you write? Why, that's great then. I mean, I would love to have you in this class whatsoever. So just to be on the safe side, maybe you might want to check again, like just to confirm with the registration, with the department. And if you still don't get any answer, if you still feel that something needs to be done, email me in like email me today, and I will reach out to some other people to ask for this. Again, I really have no information about this really, but I can ask. That's great. That would they would know. If the advisor said okay, then it should be okay. I see. I see. Well, anyway, Andrew, just if you have anything, you're confused or something happened, just let me know and I'll try to reach out to some other people maybe. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, and take care. Bye bye.